Jackson Cantwell is the nation's #1 recruit, and I'm going to tell you why on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. We're going to be talking about whether or not your team truly achieved its needs in the spring transfer portal window, in the portal overall. We're going to be talking about the house settlement. I have a very bold take on why it's not near as impactful as you might think. Something that's been going on for a very long time, over 100 years in college football. It's going to kick back in if there is any form, and I do mean any form of a cap. And finally, to begin this show, the thing that I enjoy doing the most, evaluations. Jackson Cantwell, the nation's #1 recruit. I want to tell you why I have him #1 and back it up with the film study and getting to know him in person. So let's begin right there. Jackson Cantwell from Nixon, Missouri, 6'7.5", 305 pounds. He is as gifted an athlete, not just in football, but just like across the board as you're going to find. He could be an Olympian in weightlifting. He already benches over 500 pounds. If you don't believe me, go to his X profile page, go through there, you'll find the video. Over 500 pounds in high school. He was still a junior when he did this. Keep in mind, the junior year is technically not over yet. Over 500 pounds. His father and his mother, big time athletes themselves at the University of Missouri and Olympians in track, throwing disc, shot. That is the right kind of lineage. And finally, it's just his mentality overall. Those are the three things I want to talk about. And I've got a litany of other points that I'm going to talk about with his film. And I could have done an entire podcast just on Jackson, but we'll break it down to about 8 to 10 minutes here. The first thing, though, from watching him on this list, it's the same thing that I'm going to bring up with any position, any recruit. What's the frame like long-term for his projection at the collegiate level, as well as potentially making it to the National Football League? One word: elite. Not good, elite. I've stood next to Jackson, had the opportunity to interview him. That is the way it's supposed to look. It is off a computer screen. And he uses it well because he's an aggressive player, but one that also has patience. We'll dive into that momentarily. He has the length. He has the wide shoulders. He has explosive hips. And most importantly, he is a knee bender. All of those things are traits that Jackson Cantwell can check off in the A+ category across the board. So the frame and everything that comes with it athletically, you have a piece of clay to work with. Once you're that college coach that is fortunate enough to sign him, and it's going to be Miami, Georgia, or Oregon. I don't know where he's going, but he's going to announce on the 13th, so we'll know soon enough. The point is still the same. There's nothing like the way he moves at that size that I have seen. It also has, again, the mentality between the ears to take the coaching and be a reliable player and teammate each and every play. I don't think I've ever seen the complete combination that Jackson has. So with that, the fun thing that everybody likes to talk about, and this is his own stat that he had on his huddle film. And by the way, for those of you that are interested, I've got Jackson's huddle film linked in the description below. If you have not seen his huddle film, it's well worth your time, I assure you. To that point, again, the power, he listed 158 pancakes from his junior season. I'm going to say that again. Jackson Cantwell had 158 pancakes. I know that there are players that might play against some better competition and this and that, but he plays decent competition in Missouri. It's not terrible. And quite frankly, it's just the way he does it. It's so consistent with technique. That tells me, again, that his personality is right. He takes coaching. He accepts it. He enjoys it. A lot of kids that are even close to Jackson's size, they don't take coaching that well as teenagers. That may be his best overall trait, and that's something I'll try to define as I go through here, and you can tell me what you think and comment below if you watch his huddle as well. But the power behind his hands when he immediately puts his hands into a man's chest, it's defining in a way that I can't even put into words, but you have to see it for yourself, especially live. I saw him at the Under Armour event in January, and that was something to behold because whether he was blocking down, dry blocking, or kick stepping on pass protection, he has very heavy hands, and he's pretty good at locating where he needs to put them to make sure he maximizes his reps. So it's not just power. He combines that with technique for his age. I mean, he's not by any means a complete prospect yet. That's fine. He's still a junior in high school, but Jackson Cantwell is the class of 26 best recruit overall because of the combination of all of these things. Now, this is the fun part. I knew I'd have to really search for it on his huddle film because he dominates in the offense that he plays in. They run it about 90% of the time. That's what Jackson told me to my face. Hey, I don't get a chance to pass protect a whole lot. We run the ball at Nixa High School. Okay, well, that's cool. But there were still plays where he would beat the bejesus out of the guy in front of him and move on to the second level. And instead of just going for kill shots, which he could certainly do, he would be patient, use good steps, stay low, continue to bend, and get to that next player and give them basically no chance to make a tackle. That is what you call a smart football player. Jackson Cantwell doesn't take it seriously. It's everything to him. He wants the little things to be right. And the reason I say that is because it's consistent on his film. You don't get that good at this age by not loving it. You can't fake that. He gets to the second level and he'll ad lib. If he just completely blows up a guy, he'll go on and just find somebody else. If he gets somebody on a screen, he'll go out and find somebody else if he throws him to the ground. He wants it. Very, very important. Pass protection is still the one that's the hardest for me to grade. There's very, very little of it on his huddle. So I've got to go off what I saw in person. And that was down at ESPN's Wild World of Sports. That's where they hold the Under Armour game, all the practices. And to be honest with you, it's still something he's working on, but I was surprised based on what he told me and how good he was at it. Again, it's just he's so fluid. I don't think there are many guys that move like that at his size because he's a big barrel-chested guy, just like his dad. His dad's huge chest. Great family, great people, but like those kind of players usually are just pure right tackles. Now, Jackson played right tackle at Under Armour, but they had Pepe at left, who's going to be a 2-year starter at left tackle for IMG, and he's going to go to play for USC. So they had a bookend combination there. It was pretty impressive. But he did really well when he was kick stepping. Didn't matter who he was going against, his length. And again, that hand power and that hand placement, he was really good in the opportunities that he had. So we'll know more about him once he gets to college because Nixa runs it so much. But I don't think I have any concerns about him pass protecting, and he takes to coaching. Now, as far as positions, just going to throw this out there. I'm not saying this is what I would do, but he can play guard. He has the mentality to physically overwhelm players. Again, 158 pancakes. He likes to block down. He will dry block a guy all the way to the sideline. It's who Jackson Cantwell is. So it doesn't matter. If he starts as a freshman somewhere at guard, don't be shocked because maybe a tackle that's older and more ready in pass pro is going to be able to do that. And maybe he takes over at tackle the next year. It's possible. I would imagine, though, that he's going to start at offensive tackle no matter what program he goes to as a freshman. That is the most likely scenario. We'll see. But again, Cantwell is a guy that wants to win. He wants to be a teammate. I don't think it matters, but that is huge because a lot of kids would get really mad about that. Cantwell will not. He has the right personality, the right demeanor to be a team-first football player, and that is huge. That'll also help him go way up in the NFL draft because teams want low-maintenance players. If you're trying to learn as a recruit on what to do, being low maintenance is number one on the board. Low maintenance. Yes, sir. No, sir. Don't ask why. Just do it. That is what college coaches want, and NFL scouts, GMs, and coaches want as well. Now, as far as talking about the effort, this was also interesting. There were a few plays where he had to go find somebody at the second level, and he really did it. And I also saw his open field speed and athleticism. It was impressive. That was kind of the final point for me and having him as my number one overall player. I don't think there are too many guys that are going to put in the effort that Jackson does when it's not obvious who he should go after. Beyond the player right in front of him, if he got rid of him, he would find somebody else. He would go out of his way to get to another block. That is huge. So once again, Jackson Cantwell, offensive tackle, 6'7", 305 pounds, Nixon, Missouri. He is my number one player in the class of 26, and he's earned it. Great guy. I wish him all the best no matter what school he goes to. And he's somebody I will follow once he gets to the NFL because he's done it the right way. That is awesome. When we come back, we're going to talk about the house settlement and why it is not as impactful as you might think. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Max, Paramount Plus, Disney, anything you can imagine, you can get on a Fire Stick. I use mine all the time, and I love to use it for just about anything, especially YouTube. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation. The house settlement is something that a lot of people are worried about. And I'm just going to opine about what I believe based on a long history of following recruiting and how things work in today's world combined with law. This is a mess. There is no quick and easy, comfortable Cliff Notes version of this. If you follow recruiting, you know that there's a lot of messy stuff with the NCAA, but they've all but just alleviated themselves from it because they're just afraid of getting sued. It is the most toothless organization in sport. The NCAA makes me want to hurl. To that point, now you've got Congress involved with what they call the house settlement, trying to come up with a number that each athletic department, like the P4 level, has to go up to in spending money on athletes. I'm not sure if it's how the G5 works and all that, but I focus basically on the programs in the main four conferences. We know who they are: Big 12, Big 10, SEC, and ACC. To that end, it's going to be roughly $21 million, something like that they spend as an overall athletic department. That is the number that's being thrown around. There are a few things left to get the house settlement passed. However, there are people talking about there being a cap. And I just want to throw this out there, whether it's now, whether like Trump's gotten involved with Coach Saban, trying to come up with a way to kind of negotiate how NIL should work and all that. No matter what anybody else does, know the following, and this is just ironclad, guaranteed, no doubt about it. If there is ever let's say, cap, that's garbage because there's always been a ton of cheating in college football. If you think in any way, shape, or form, some school in the SEC or Big 10 or whatever isn't going to find an extra way to compensate their players, you are high as a kite. That is number one. It is guaranteed. It has always been that way. Same in basketball or any other sport. Cheating is bottom line. You can like it. You can disagree with it. You can think that your school doesn't cheat. You're wrong. They do. Now, that also does bring up something else here. The teams that find extra ways to get kids money are more likely to win. But that's always been the case. As it relates specifically to NIL, here's the caveat where they can really get away with it. Yeah, they have X number of dollars from this house settlement, whatever it ends up being and whenever it's done. But this is free enterprise. This is America. This is capitalism. Do you think these other collectives and other individuals aren't going to give a great recruit, a great quarterback, whatever it is? It could be a women's basketball player. It could be a volleyball player, whatever. They go down to the car dealership. It's 15 minutes from campus, and they do an advertise it. That's outside of what the program they work for, because they're really employees, whether we want to call them that or not. Yeah, they're student athletes, whatever. They're employees. That's what this comes down to. They're going to go out and get their own deals. It only takes one phone call from a coach at any given school. Again, it doesn't matter the sport, but football is where the bread is buttered. And they can call somebody and they can start working out a deal. And then that entity, that car dealership, that insurance company, that restaurant, that bakery, whatever it is, makes a deal with that player. It's already happening in certain states with high school players. Do you think that's not going to happen? So while there might end up being some kind of cap or something like that, it's not going to matter. The teams that earn it by just being very smart and very cordial, not allowing the forest for the trees to get in the way, will be the ones that rise to the top. And here's my final point on this kind of overall before I kind of recap it. The teams that you think of naturally as top 10, top 15 in the nation from a blue blood statistical perspective, championships, Heisman winners, all that, Southern Cal, Texas, Alabama, Florida, Ohio State, whatever schools you want to throw into that list. They can go up or they can go down based on their ability just to use common sense. If they find a way smartly, all they got to do is really get out of the way, allow other entities to help pay their players, but the right actors, not the idiot brigade, not the third uncle guys, the right entities that are legitimate businesses to hire their athletes, they will go up in the rankings. The ones that don't want to do that will be the ones that go down. It's simple math. If you add more opportunities for athletes, you're going to get more good athletes. And as Saban and Kirby Smart and just about every coach, Urban Meyer, you name it, has talked about forever, winning is mostly about recruiting and having the best players. So you got to find a way to compensate them the best way and give them the best opportunities so they have an advantage long-term, not only for themselves, but for their families. Oh, what a great idea. The players should have been compensated a long time ago in some capacity, but even again, whether it's now or down the road, and I have no idea when this is going to happen, if there's ever any type of cap, you're going to see an opportunity for a lot of different schools to make amends by just making some simple phone calls. Will your school be that one, or will your school be the idiot that decides, you know what, we're just going to stick with the money from the house settlement. We're not going to try to help them with outside deals. Those will be the programs that lose. You can like this, you can dislike this, but that's what's coming down the pipe, guaranteed. Money speaks, and it's understandable. If you were in the shoes of an athlete, wouldn't you want that opportunity to make your own deals? It'd be pretty cool, too, to be at a car dealership or an insurance company, whatever you want to use. Absolutely. And if you're a parent, of course you want your kid to be in that opportunity. You're gaining contacts, you're gaining money. That's a lot of fun. So the programs that do it are going to be the ones that win. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the NIL a little bit, but with the transfer portal. Did your team win the transfer portal or not only in the spring, but overall? That is next on the Portal Podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and taking control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It's easy to collaborate with your partner as well. Instead of keeping all your capital in different places, you can track your personal accounts, set goals, and more under Monarch Money without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. How well did your college football program manage the portal from the winter window all the way through the spring window? Here's what I mean. Just keep track of this in your head. Number one, the new thing, and I've talked about this a little bit on the Portal Podcast, and I'll go into it a little more detail today. Did you retain players? Above all else, did you retain your main players? I'm going to use Penn State as one of the examples, but that is the number one key. Number two, did you fill needs? Did you have a problem because there wasn't a backup punter and your guy just went to the NFL? Did you lose your starting left guard and he was all conference? Whatever. You don't necessarily have to replace them if they're going on to the NFL with somebody of that level, but are they at least a good player and it's at least close? If the answer is no, this is not a good trend. Third, impact players. You want to blend. from the portal. Sure, you got to fill some holes where it's just obvious. You got guys that you've recruited for whatever reason, it didn't work out. They were hurt. They don't listen, so they haven't been very coachable, whatever it may be. So you go out and you try to get somebody from the portal that's maybe a redshirt junior, a fifth-year senior, a one-and-done guy, whatever. But you also want to get some guys that can mix in. If as long as you do that and you get a few of those impact guys that kind of blend in, long-term, you won't need as many impact players. And plus, that's where you spend a lot of money and you can really blow through your NIL budget. So if you get a few of those impact guys this year and you continue to develop with some pretty good players behind them, you've got a chance long-term to get away from the portal. And those are the teams winning. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State. What are they doing? They're recruiting elite players, especially in the trenches from the high school ranks. So they don't need to plug and play quite as much most years. Now, there's still some obvious exceptions. How about Texas? I believe it's 5 or 6 guys they took from the portal at D tackle. A couple guys turned pro, a couple guys left. And it's just one of those things where they had no choice. Okay, that's cool. Texas did the right thing. Steve Sarkisian and his group knew that's where they needed to go and get the players to go along with Arch Manning and what's going to be a very explosive offense. They got Cedric Baxter back from an ACL injury. That's going to be an explosive team, but you got to stop people. So they met needs and they got impact guys in terms of size fitting their overall scheme. Did your school do something like that at any position? I just use Texas as one. And if they didn't, why? Are they a real contender in your league, let alone in trying to get to the playoff? Probably not. Either you overspend at the end of the day, or you've just been the luckiest team ever. There hasn't been one like that didn't need something from the portal. Everybody needs something. Even Clemson, shout out to Dabo Swinney, went and got a wide receiver out of the portal, and that's great. I love to see that they at least supplement it. It'll give a little bit more juice to what Clemson has at wide receiver, and they got some talent there anyway. Plus, I think it shows the players that, hey, Dabo wants to win. Now, the final point on this, the balance. Are you, as I brought up on the first thing, retaining players and the guys you brought in? What is the pay? Because sometimes guys will talk about that in the locker room, sometimes they won't. I've heard different stories. I don't really know if there's, quote unquote, any consistency with it. But if you're not paying players accordingly that were already on the roster in conjunction with the guys you brought in, how well is that going to go? How well is that going to go? Probably not very good. There could be a few items where you could say, yeah, this cost this team games. All the players don't have to like each other, and it's very common for a lot of players, especially at the NFL level, to dislike one another, but they go their separate ways. College, you're in the same dorms, you're in the same groups, you're in the same group chats. It's a different deal. It's more important at the collegiate level to have continuity, especially because at that point, a lot of these players are still learning. They got to learn from each other as much as anything else. The fifth-year offensive guard could absolutely hate the defensive tackle he sees in practice, but they don't hang out. They're not in the same group chat, whatever. They just practice against each other and they go their separate ways. This is college. So again, you got balance. Did you meet your needs? Did you not overspend? And of course, again, at the very beginning, did you take care of your own players? Let's talk about Penn State on that regard. Both running backs were retained by James Franklin. Both of them could have went on to the National Football League. Latest they probably would have been somebody maybe falling to the 4th round. I doubt it. But they paid him. They came back. Drew Auer, I'm sure he was compensated. He came back. They've got defensive players that could have went in the portal. Maybe got some more money somewhere else based on how Penn State used to spend, but they've upped their NIL game. And now Penn State's keeping those players as well. This is a really smart move overall by Penn State. Now, they added some guys. Pena came over from Syracuse. Just going to use him as an example. He is a dynamic slot player. There's your impact guy, but you only took a few of those. You're good there. A couple of the receivers they got were good. They added some players at other spots that are good role players. So they had a blend. Did your team have a blend? To finish up, I just want to use LSU as an example. They took some good players from the portal, both in the winter and the spring, and they had arguably as good a portal class as you could find in terms of impact guys, balance, and keeping their guys home. Most recently, they got a defensive tackle from USF. Wasn't necessarily a dominant player, but he's somebody that's going to be able to come in and assimilate to that locker room, and he has proven that he's a consistent football player. He'll be respected and he'll be compensated, but he's not the end-all, be-all guy. They didn't go out and try to overspend and get somebody that might upset the locker room. This is smart business. LSU's got some good young defensive linemen, but they're not going to be overwhelmed with this guy coming in, although he's a senior and he's a player that's probably going to get quite a few reps, but he's not going to demand too much money, too much attention. This is the happy medium. If you're going to do it, and you're going to do it well with the transfer portal, it is a fine line. There's a lot of these things. Again, paying your players that are already on your roster to keep them there is by far the number one thing with the transfer portal. And I know for fans, that's boring as all get out, but it also leads to wins because it's continuity and it's not having a whole bunch of time wrapped up in trying to keep somebody and they still leave. And while you were wasting your time trying to keep them, you lose out on other players that were already in the portal from other schools. Not having as many needs to hit the portal for players is still by far the number one thing. It's not really that difficult if you take a step back and look at it. So again, did you get balanced? Did you not overspend? Did you get a few impact guys while you took some other players that maybe in a year from now you don't have to use the portal? These are all the things that you need to look at for whatever school you root for. Because if they didn't do those things, your program's probably not going to compete at the highest level. So Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, those four, Georgia to a certain degree, like they know how to supplement here and there. There's a reason those teams not only do well in recruiting, but they know how to use the portal well. USC's trending that way a little bit. That's a school maybe in another year we'll talk about. And then Oregon, that's an easy one. They've got a ton of NIL money, but they've managed it probably better than I thought they would. So shout out to Dan Lanning and his staff for keeping the Ducks not only good, but keeping the locker room right, because I'm sure there's some discrepancies here and there on who's getting paid and what. They've done a really good job too. We'll see who else ends up in that boat. Maybe Oklahoma kind of makes a comeback this year. They went and got John Mateer, great quarterback from Washington State. Of course, they brought his offensive coordinator. They balanced it out. They got Jay Knott from Cal. I mean, they revamped their offense real quick with some NIL decisions, but they brought in some good players too that are in the more supplemental variety. Like they're not necessarily dominant, but they're good football players that will help them. They're going to need it against their ridiculous schedule this year too. So overall, the portal, you got to look at it broad to understand whether or not your team really won the portal. Team rankings, I don't put a lot of stock in. I'm more interested in the player rankings and then how they fit for each school. It's probably the most important thing. So once again, the transfer portal, it's complex. You can judge for yourself whether your team won it, but I just gave you my own definition on why I think you have to look at it from a different category situation for every school. It's a little different. I know that. And some players are better at certain schools. You're going to retain more in certain years, but that's the number one thing overall. Once again, thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm Brian Smith, and I will see you again soon.